Now I turn to the critiques of free market supply-side economics. Their idea is that the government just needs to play a passive role. The government just needs to encourage competition, competition, competition. And that automatically gives birth to new class of entrepreneurs and new class of competitive firms. But on the other hand, interventionist supply-side schools thinks that this is a very naive view. Let me give you an example. Let's go back to the example of Steve Jobs and iPhone, the most productive product made in the history of capitalism. Sometimes this product is celebrated as an example of, genius by, private entrepreneurs. But in reality, what are the key technologies that make this product very successful? GPS, touchscreen, internet, Siri, all of those technologies were funded by the government. All of those technologies were funded actively by investment decisions made by the US government. So this example tells you that most of the technologies that we have around us are not just a product of genius coming from entrepreneurs, but also investment decisions made by the government. So that's at the heart of the interventionist supply-side economics. They say that, sometimes for innovation to happen, you need the government support. You need the government to build an alliance with the entrepreneur. The government build an alliance with the Steve Jobs or Tesla, supports them and help them to, jumpstart the innovation process. That's the main philosophy of interventionist supply-side economics. Now, I talked about, all the key technologies of iPhone being funded through government investment decisions. Let me give you another example. Samsung, one of the most innovative firms in the world. That firm is a product of a lot of government support. During the 1960s and 70s, and especially 80s, the Korean government provided a lot of directed and targeted subsidies to the Samsung firm to move into the cell phone industry, to the computer chip industry, to the high-tech sector. So we can think about the example of interventionist policies at the level of firms. Sometimes, there are examples at the regional level. Some cities are product of, government support. Some innovative cities like Shenzhen in China. That's an outcome of a deliberate decision by the government to facilitate investment in that region, to direct the firms towards, low-cost manufacturing in the 1980s. So interventionist policies can target firms, can target sectors, can target regions. And we have a lot of success stories there. And of course, we have a lot of failure stories. So let me get down to the core idea of interventionist policy school. The idea here is that the government needs to play an active role in the economy. The government needs to support the rise of new competitive firms in particular sectors, or it could revive particular regions. So here the interventionist policies can target a new sector or a new region. And there are lots of examples of this today going on. The first example that comes to my mind is, the computer chip industry in the US. At the moment, the US is getting worried of becoming too reliant on import of computer chips from Taiwan. They want to make sure that they produce their own computer chips. So the government is following targeted support, what we call as industrial policy, targeted support to revive the computer chip industry in the US. The other example that comes to my mind is the EU countries. They're all providing targeted support for green technology sectors. Or China at the moment. China is following a big industrial policy support for its computer chip industry. China wants to jump to the high-tech sector. So far, they've been assembling iPhones for Apple. Now they want to produce their own cell phones. They want to produce their own competitive global firms like Huawei. And the government there is providing support to them, industrial policy. So the examples that I gave you was all governments supporting a sector. Sometimes governments can revive a region, that target a region. An example that jumps to my mind is the leveling up agenda in the UK. Make sure that, in terms of productivity, almost all the cities in the UK can innovate. You don't want to have a situation that there are only few cities in the south that create jobs and innovate, and the rest of the regions lag behind. So leveling up tries to reduce the productivity difference between these regions. There, the government targets their support. This could be building an infrastructure to a particular region to revive that region. An example that comes to my mind, this is more of a cultural example, is Tate Museum in Liverpool. So one of the ideas behind that was, the government supporting the build-up of a new Tate Museum in Liverpool in order to revive their economy. So you can think of this as a place-based interventionist policy, or a place-based national policy to revive a particular region and level up.